Hello and welcome. My name is Sonny and this is Financial Mastery. And in today's video, I will talk about the current state of the crypto markets, and I will also disclose my crypto allocations going into the end of 2024 and rolling over into 2025. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic. Okay, so let's take a look at my current crypto allocations for the year end and going into 2025 and what altcoin sectors I believe will be the most profitable going forward. I will also share my favorite projects, but keep in mind, everything I say is purely for entertainment purposes only. I do not provide financial advice. So the biggest sector that I have for roughly 20% of my portfolio are layer 1 projects. I still believe that there is a lot of competition out there with projects who want to be the next Ethereum or who want to beat Bitcoin. Projects that want to be cheaper, faster, etc. My biggest holdings, they are basically shown on the image itself. Sui, which has recently gone up quite a lot. Chainlink, which is still pretty cheap, but I believe has a really strong fundamental case and a lot of adoption. And Ethena, which is also a rather new cyclical coin that is recently launched. I have many others, but these are basically my biggest holdings in that 20%. The next sector I believe can really grow massively and already has seen quite a good performance so far in the cycle is the artificial intelligence sector. While I do not have some specific coins I like in that sector, besides Fetch and probably Render, I do believe that having an index of various smaller capped coins could give you a real nice return this cycle. The narrative for artificial intelligence is already one of the best growing narratives this current cycle. And I personally believe that whatever does well in the beginning of the cycle will also perform well near the end of the cycle. So I own currently roughly around 7 to 8% of my portfolio in a basket of various smaller artificial intelligence coins. As I said, my biggest holdings are Render, Fetch, and also PAL AI. The next sector that I want to talk about is the real-world asset sector. Just like artificial intelligence, this sector is one of the best performing early cycle. And I do believe it's still really small and it has a lot of potential for really good performance going forward. Now, I also share a real-world asset portfolio on my socials, but if you have not followed that, I will share it in this slide. Real-world assets make up also around 7 to 8% of my portfolio as we speak. And as you can see, one of my biggest holdings is Props, Peace, Goldfinch, Space ID, Cpool, Opulus, TRVL, and the rest of the basket is made up of smaller holdings. I like to create indexes in specific sectors. In that case, I do not have to research which coin will perform the best, but I do get the advantage of the whole sector and the growth of that sector. So while I do not have to pick the best coin, I will create a basket with, let's say, 10 to 20 coins, and I will grow with the average performance of that sector. Because artificial intelligence and also real-world assets are one of the best performing sectors in this current crypto cycle, I do get some nice performance out of it without having to actively perform trades and follow up every coin. Another sector where I'm still bullish on is the GameFi sector. Many gaming coins have performed really well in the last cycle, and also in this cycle we notice that new coins can get a lot of traction. Now, while I do not hold a sufficient part of my portfolio in GameFi, I only hold 3% of it in that sector in some projects, mostly Gala and Superverse, I do believe that specific projects do have a chance to get good performance. Now, I'm not as bullish on gaming than I am on AI or real-world assets, but I do believe they will have a time to shine. The gaming sector and gamers are a big community, and I do believe that they will likely pump their coins, and they will see some small hype cycle occur this cycle. At least that's what I expect to be likely. Another sector where I'm very bullish about, which is only a small allocation of 1 to 2% in my portfolio, is the meme coin sector. Meme coins do not really have any fundamental value, in my opinion, but I do think that jumping on the hype can be very beneficial. I also have a free-to-follow Sol meme coin portfolio on my X profile, so if you haven't seen that, make sure to give it a follow. And I am allocated in a basket of meme coins on Solana ecosystem. I do believe that the current meme hype will continue, as we have seen in coins like Pepe, Doge, Floki, and so many others like Chat, NPC, just name it. I think that the hype from those communities will continue, and it will probably get worse as retail jumps in. While I'm not that heavily invested in the sector, I do not ignore it, and I do play around with some small positions. Now, the last big part of my portfolio, the other roughly 50% or 60%, is made up out of Ethereum. I still hold a lot of Ethereum, which I have bought around the Corona crisis in 2020, and I have not unloaded my stack just yet. I'm a big Ethereum believer because I really believe the ecosystem is really thriving, it is growing, it is having layer 2s, and it's also having quite a lot of utility. Just look at many of the other ecosystems and you will see that they are basically copying the success of Ethereum. I know you may have some issues with the coin, and I agree. The coin is not holy, it's not perfect, but I do believe that Ethereum will be a very strong contestant for this cycle. And when we compare Ethereum gains versus Bitcoin in past performing cycles, we also see that Ethereum always ends up performing better. I made the choice in this cycle and in previous cycle in 2021 to be in a majority of Ethereum. You cannot ignore the altcoins because many altcoins have an even better performance than ETH. That's why I like to allocate my portfolio in a 50-50 or 60-40 fashion, with 50 to 60% of Bitcoin, or in my case Ethereum, and 40 to 50% of various altcoin sectors which you believe could perform really well. Now, one other thing I want to say. If you are looking into artificial intelligence, Solana, or real-world assets, then I have some really good news. I share free portfolios on my X profile, and as you can see, under my tag, Mulder Sonny, you can get live purchases, live updates of those portfolios just for free. If you are interested and if you are looking for new ideas on what to buy or what could potentially be a good performer, then make sure to follow me also on X and follow those portfolios. So let's talk about Bitcoin and my price expectations for Bitcoin for this cycle. As I showed you in the last video, I believe we are not at the top just yet. I really think that we still have some more room to move up, but where exactly am I looking to take profit? Well, personally, I am looking at Fibonacci extension levels. These are basically levels which often work in cryptocurrency, and they are basically the basis of my strategy. So personally, I want to stay very conservative, considering the economy and the potential recession that may be ahead or price corrections that may be ahead after we already saw quite a run-up in equities. I do think that the crypto cycle will not be as exuberant as it was in 2021. It could be, but I am staying conservative with my guesses because I want to take profit which I can redeploy, and I already am in the market since the bottoms, so I do not need to maximize on max risk. I think that conservatively, we could go until the 2 Fibonacci extension around 120 Bitcoin, and we will go at least to roughly 100,000. I've been saying this already since we were hitting around the lows, and since then we have already progressed quite a while. Since our peak early March, we have been in a reaccumulation. This is what we call a Wyckoff pattern. The Wyckoff pattern is basically a special kind of movement in price, which they call a Wyckoff pattern, that shows you that the institutions, the people with big money, they are reaccumulating. They are selling coins and they are stacking back in lower. And they do that in a fashion that you can see in a kind of pattern. So we clearly broke out upwards because we often do so with a Wyckoff pattern, and we can clearly see if we project our first movement to the breakout to the second one, that would already A, B, C, D give us a target of roughly 100,000. My high probability target, let's say, would be 100k, and I have been saying that for the whole cycle, that we will go to 100k plus, and we are already around 90,000 because once we broke out, we moved up quite a lot already. Now, I do think we can overshoot this target and we could move until 120, but personally, I would be heavily selling if we reach this target area. I'm not betting on insane upside for Bitcoin this cycle to 200k and above. Reasons being is that I think that there are a lot of headwinds in front of us that may cause diminishing returns to strike crypto once again. And what we often see is that in stages of euphoria, which we are entering right now, that there is always a reason to continue believe that prices will go higher. And I think it's really important that if you have a really good profit, that you also take in some of that profits to rotate into less risky opportunities. Now, when we look at the Bitcoin dominance, we can clearly see that this cycle is not different than any others. In our first altcoin cycle, we saw the dominance of Bitcoin drop quite a lot, which is normal because at the time there weren't really many other coins. So Bitcoin was one of the only players in town. And then there started to be many altcoins. And at that time, the dominance of Bitcoin versus the total market cap dropped. What we then noticed is a recovery, and we had the same in 2021 and 2020. It dropped once again with the DeFi bubble and the staking bubble for those who were trading at the time. Now, what we do see is that whenever you have the halving, and that's basically the orange line, it takes roughly 34 to 33 weeks, because this is a weekly chart, after the halving for the Bitcoin dominance to peak. We are currently sitting at 28 weeks, so that gives us roughly a couple more weeks at most where dominance will peak, and after which likely Bitcoin dominance will fall. That implies that as soon as the dominance drops, it drops fast, it drops hard, and altcoins, they outperform Bitcoin in those times. So coming back to the sectors I talked about, I would think that most of the performance will occur as soon as Bitcoin dominance peaks and rolls over and starts dropping heavily. We haven't seen that just yet this cycle, so I assume it is yet to come. Looking at Ethereum, what do I expect there? We see the same pattern occurring every cycle. If we look at 2019, we see the same Wyckoff occurring. Once again, Wyckoff is just a special pattern where we can see big institutions stepping in, wanting to buy the lows. We had a Wyckoff accumulation occurring, after which the price of Ethereum skyrocketed higher. We are currently seeing another Wyckoff accumulation playing out, which already moved to the upside, and I do believe we are seeing the same as we have seen in last cycle. We saw a retest and a run-up. We saw a breakout, a retest, and now we will see a run-up. Some inflection points are the downtrend line, which we see right here. That also aligns with, let me show you quickly, some Fibonacci levels. The red is very often acting as resistance. So we are seeing some resistance in this level, but once that we clear this level, I do assume we will move to an all-time high and eventually we will move higher. I have still high hopes for ETH, as I am still holding a majority of my wealth in Ethereum, as you know by now. And what targets do I suspect we could hit? When we measure the full top to bottom for Ethereum, I think we could make the same measurements and that we could see the same kind of performance. We could see prices up to 9 to 10K in the best case, and in the lower end, I would focus on a price of 7K, or if you are really conservative, 6K. So this is like my high confidence target to be hit, and this is like my very bullish target to be hit. And we often know that round numbers, they act as a magnet. So I could see ETH trending towards that 10K and just topping out slightly below and then rolling over. So I still have high expectations for Ethereum as well. Now, Ethereum is the front runner for many altcoins, which would imply that as soon as Ethereum breaks its all-time high, we could see many altcoins go into euphoria as well. Altcoins that will see massive gains potentially, and that will even drive up markets faster than they are trending up right now. So that's roughly it for me for today. I hope that it gives a clear estimate of my allocations, my projections, and my expectations for this cycle. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Do not forget to like and do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will do my best to update you guys with as much quality content as possible. Well, have a good day and see you guys later. Bye bye.